Hello everyone, this is Bobbin Threadbare, and welcome back to The Crew 2.
And I'm Joe. Oh! That's a view.
Yep.
Let me guess. That's a Cobra 500.
No, actually, this is the Shelby GT Mustang again. But this is the touring racing version.
Look at all the switches.
So it's been modded to hell and back. So it can do things like turn now.
Wait, really?
Yeah. You'll also notice that it's got the shift, the transmission has more gears, and the shifter has been lifted up so that it's closer to the steering wheel, which is a nice little touch. Anyway, that was Manhattan we were just in, and now we're taking the tunnel to Jersey City. The reason we're going to Jersey City is because that is where the pro racing headquarters is.
So wait, does that happen on, like, closed off circuits?
Yes.
Oh, dang.
Well, the cars do, anyway. Yeah, see?
Oh, look at that spoiler. Oh.
Professionally modified. You can't really trick it out the way that you can with street race cars. It's basically, the car is going to look like this, whether you like it or not.
That does not look like a Mustang from the back. Like, I know there's the 3-sectioned brake lights, but it doesn't look clumsy.
No, it's not clumsy. Well, here's the pro racing area, and or at least that was the marker for it. I'm not really seeing the walk-around area from here. But yes, it is attached to an actual closed-circuit race there. If I could just find the entrance to the walk-around area, which apparently isn't this.
Odd.
Even though this is clearly a walk-around area. Oh hey, a parking lot.
Oh, nice.
Okay, where the hell? The walk-around area does exist on the big map. It's around here somewhere. Oh, what the hell? I'll just zip in from fast traveling. We'll find it there.
That's a boat.
Okay. So where am I? God damn it, it's just telling me I'm right there. Oh, whatever. Welcome to the Pro Racing Headquarters. This is where it is. Somewhere on the other side of this fence. You can see the big lap counter. The stands in the background. This here's the fixer, a Lexus.
Big old ad for you, Rare.
And yeah, they've got touring cars, they've got speedboats, they've got air races. Oh yeah, and there's something else I should mention. Here's me remembering in the video. So I noticed that this package here has a Honda in it.
Ooh.
So apparently there are Hondas in this game.
Huh.
Or maybe I wasn't mistaken and now there is a Honda in the game. Like just now. Because if I go into the menu, into the catalog, and search by manufacturer, yeah, that is the only Honda in this game. At least so far.
Just the one.
Yeah. And yeah, you can see here that Toyota is not under T. So that is still true. No Toyotas.
Oh, but you could get a TVR.
Yeah, unless I already have one.
Those things are so silly.
Whoops. I accidentally walked out of the area. But hey, at least this gives me a clue as to where it is. Which is the pit. Yeah, go figure, but the professional racing headquarters is in the pit. of a professional race course.
Okay.
That's what all those little blue booths around here are. And yeah, they call it Alpha GP, but yeah, that's Formula One.
There's so many different open wheel tournaments you could be doing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Licensing just the one would be counterproductive.
And over here we have Clarence. That's the guy in the white jumpsuit. He is the ace. And unlike off-road, but like street racing, Clarence is in fact the asshole.
Oh.
And you get his Aston Martin Vulcan if you beat him. But, yeah, so the idea is that Alexis wants to expand into new types of driving, new types of races, and Clarence is just fine with it being Alpha GP, maybe touring cars as well. However, the original, or the first activity type for the professional racing is speedboats.
Oh.
So let's have a look at that.
Yeah, that was new for the crew. At least. So I guess it fits her demeanor, at least. Or goal.
Yeah. She's all about the powerboats and the air races. So this is fast and it has a lot of mass, but it kind of sucks at turning. Like so.
Alright.
Also, I think it's kind of fragile because that happens a lot.
Yeah.
Where you crash so hard that the game just resets you.
Yeah, these things are made of something really brittle.
Fiberglass in a lot of cases.
Oh, I thought it was carbon fiber.
Well, speedboats are the kind of thing where you can actually get away with using fiberglass in some cases.
Interesting.
But yeah, I imagine like at the racing level they use a lot more carbon fiber. So the interesting thing about boat racing, by the way, is the trimming. You can point the engines down to push the boat up out of the water and get more speed by, being in more air than water.
Okay.
Also, another nice thing about this boat is that it's so huge that it doesn't really care about the ocean waves that I was just going through. Other lighter craft get pushed around pretty bad by the ocean waves.
So, was this on easy?
Oh no, this was difficult.
Oh.
Did you see that guy go flying there?
Damn.
Hit the rocks and just went straight.
Sorry, I was looking at the numbers. There's so many numbers.
Alright. Well, just like with off-roading, I'm going to demonstrate several different power boats. I've got a few. Like the wide body here, and Offshore Mark 1 and Mark 2. Those are Proto brand, so they don't really have a specific real-world equivalent. Also, hard for power boats is at 210 out of 250. And I left this one in, by the way, to show you that boats have different parts.
Yeah, makes sense.
Yeah, they have rudders, they have the turbines.
Hmm.
Obviously, they don't have wheels.
Yeah.
But I just kitted out the Offshore Mark 1. This is your free vehicle for the professional racing discipline.
These things are so long.
I know I'm not usually the one saying this sort of thing, but are you sure about this race?
And I'm not the one who usually says you're worrying too much, but here we are. It's all set. Between this and the race in Vegas, we're showing off in new venues.
So we're hoping the big jump means big numbers?
That's the idea. It's a big chance we're taking trying a location like this, but we've got to do it. One thing will never change, though. Old-fashioned driving will always win. 3.
So right now we are in Lake Mead, and I don't know if you know what that means, but we're going to see what that means.
That's the whatever for Hoover Dam, right?
The lake created by Hoover Dam, yes.
Like, I thought that's what they're inferring. You know, with the name and all.
Mm-hmm. By the way, I don't really know what those red buoys are for. It might have something to do with real powerboat races, but you can just run them over in the game.
Yeah. So, are you going to be jumping into the Grand Canyon?
Well, there's Hoover Dam right there.
Okay.
So yeah, you're right.
Okay. That just happened.
Yeah.
I think that might be like double illegal.
Yeah. Incredibly dangerous at the very least. But one thing I wanted to note about trimming is that the way you do it is by holding the steering joystick down. And you can see that you're doing it because the white circle around your speed. It's white on top, black on the bottom when you don't press up or down, but it's all white when you press all the way down.
Mm-hmm. Kind of weird, but that I could deal.
It's so you can keep track of how much trimming you're doing. I just want you to keep track of that on the next race so you can see how that works. Because obviously, because that's the same stick that you use for steering, you cannot trim and turn at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
So, that's often basically how it goes, is that you don't really have to slow down when you're in a powerboat. What you have to do is you stop trimming in order to turn faster. And this here is the Mark II. And maybe you'll notice, because I sure didn't, but we're racing on normal for this one. Whoops.
Yeah, I thought I noticed that.
So yeah, this time the other racers are going to stand no chance against me. Their boats just simply aren't powerful enough. But this is the Mississippi race. So we are on the Mississippi going south. And you know, if the competition doesn't stand a chance, we might as well have some fun and do this from a first-person perspective.
Ooh. Look at those freaking droplets.
It's really nice too because the windscreen is incredibly tinted in this model, and you can tell because everything just got darker when we went into first person.
Yeah, it's kind of relaxing.
So another tip about boat racing is never take the jump if you can help it.
Oh.
Because when you're in the air, you are slowing down. So those big live bumps in the water, those are obstacles. You need to avoid them. By the way, something I can't quite figure out is that all of the boats seem to have right-hand driving. And I'm not sure why. It's because there are a lot of English manufacturers out there or something?
I wouldn't know anything about that.
Well.
All I know about boats
I
is
guess
that
you
they
can
can
handle the
be
pressure after
incredibly loud.
Yeah, actually, I've had to turn down the racing audio a couple of times for this video.
I was in Oslo back in the, I want to say late 90s? And there was like an extreme powerboat race happening in the bay, but I was like way up in the mountain range extending up from Oslo. It gets kind of far inland, the city does, and it sounded loud even up there.
Alright, new race, so new boat. This is the M31 wide body.
Oh boy.
As you can see, there's a lot of room for passengers.
Oh boy.
Putting a course on the East River is tricky. Between the tight checkpoints and the wakes from the competition, you can run into trouble in a New York minute. But the city loves to race, so we run here every year. Which reminds me, I have some good news and some bad news. The good news is that you've done enough to get yourself on Clarence's radar. That's also the bad news. Expect him to do whatever it takes to make sure you're not a threat. 3,
Like I said, Clarence is an asshole.
1.
Oh boy. I kind of wonder if they were planning on race types where you needed like race notes.
I didn't think he'd do this.
You know, just for this fictional wide boy.
But yeah, you heard Alexis screaming there about Clarence ramming me, even though I kind of rammed him just then. But yeah, this is the East River race. So we're seeing New York City on all sides here.
Oh. Well, this is spooky.
Yeah, and you might see that the world sort of darkens and then brightens back up at odd moments.
Yeah?
That's the clouds passing over the sun.
It's quite the detail.
Yeah. It's pretty nice.
Yeah.
Sure are a lot of bridges.
Yeah. Yeah, that there are. And I couldn't name a single one of them.
Well, there's the Brooklyn Bridge. That one's easy.
Oh yeah.
And there's the Statue of Liberty. That's not a bridge, but you should know that.
I don't think that's supposed to be there.
What, the Statue of Liberty?
Yeah, Liberty Island. It's,
No, it's directly south of Manhattan.
yeah, but I thought it'd be a bit further.
Everything's compressed in the game.
Ah, that's true.
And yet you can see the Statue of Liberty from southern Manhattan. And in the game, they've apparently filled Liberty Island with stands.
Yeah.
Let me try and get a little bit of a closer look of her, using my airplane.
Oh no. Oh. That was a close call.
Yep. That was me going slow, by the way. points, but one more race.
Oh boy.
Key West. Why not? Going from the north end of the Atlantic coast to the south. And for this one, we will take the Blade Runner.
Oh man. I'm ready to get metaphysical.
Oh no, I'm not going to forget about the difficulty level this time.
There you go.
You can change it while you're looking at the event area, by the way. Not just from the menu.
It's very polite.
And this is the cockpit. And by the way, did you ever wonder what would happen if I ran out of time on the go to the starting grid countdown?
Well, guess we're about to see.
Nothing.
Oh.
Nothing happens. You automatically jump to the start of the race. The thing is that if you are in a crew, if you are competing in this race with a bunch of friends, then whoever gets to the starting line first gets the best position.
Oh.
That's why you need to do, why you need to bother. But if you're doing it solo, like I am for this, it doesn't really matter. The only reason to run over to the starting line is because that doesn't take as much time.
I gotta wonder why it's not just a button.
Well, because this is an always online game, so they can't really alter things for the single player mode, even if you're just being a single player.
Well, that happened.
Yeah, I just sort of bounced off of that pylon.
Yeah?
Yeah, you gotta watch those bridges around here, because there's a lot of them. It's all of the highways connecting the key islands together.
Okay.
Yeah, there is both an interstate and a U.S. route connecting the islands.
Wait. What's the difference?
Time and money.
Oh.
The U.S. routes went up first. The interstates had a bigger budget and came later. And there we go.
Done being on a boat. You're on a boat. Everybody look at you because you're sailing on a boat.
Mm-hmm. Now I'm a plane.
I was wondering about that.
About what?
About whether they would take notice of you doing barnstorming.
Oh yeah, yeah. You can get a lot of points when you're in a plane. Including air drifting, which is an aileron turn. Or a rudder turn, I should say.
Oh,
Oh, whatever. I'm no planes, I'm not an expert at them. But yes, I took the plane in order to get to my Miami home, right here. But aside from that, I had some extra time, so I decided, you know what I haven't really shown you? I haven't shown you a regular street race at Ace difficulty of myself against the Ace, Tio.
yeah.
Because when Tio is in a race, he taunts you actively when you switch places.
Okay. Why not?
Or at least he usually does. He's rather quiet this time. Still, this is the hardest a race can be in a street race.
Oh boy.
Now you can see it starts out with just everybody screaming ahead of me. But I knew when to use my turbo. They didn't. And so now I'm in first.
Oh. That's how it's supposed to go, right?
Yeah. I found that with street races at least, honestly with a lot of races, if you get into first place, you can usually stay there. But if you're struggling to reach first place, you'll struggle for the entire race.
Wonder what that jump is going to do for all the AI.
Well, that is part of the race, so they usually handle jumps pretty well, and unlike this turn, I always screw up this turn in this race. It's just the weird angle combined with the grass on the verge just messes with me. But incidentally, that ramp in the middle of the tunnel there,
Yeah?
the AI usually goes for it even though it slows them down. Although it does mean that they don't have to take that sharp turn in the middle of the glare,
Yeah.
which is, yeah, kind of annoying in its own way. I mean,
Want to trip you up?
Yeah, the glare, it makes sense. It's realistic, but then, you know what else is realistic? Sunglasses.
Yeah? Oh,
Sunglasses help with glare.
what they do? I think you just killed the guy.
Yeah. Well, you never kill a man even... You never kill pedestrians even when it looks like you kill a pedestrian. That's just how the game goes.
Yeah. I'm pretty sure if you take it frame by frame, you pass through a person at the very least.
Yeah. Like I said, you never run over pedestrians even when you run them over. And there's a bit of a shortcut on this turn here, but it's kind of a trap. I mean, it points you in the right direction, but you really have to brake in order to hit it. And with normal street races like this, they're usually 2 laps.
Okay.
So here's that turn I can never do right again. As you just saw, I did it wrong in a completely new and unique way.
It looked fine to me, but what do I know?
Well, I was skidding off into the grass.
Yeah? Look, it's fine. You didn't crash.
Yeah, but I lost time.
Any turn you can walk away from is a good turn.
Yeah, but I'd like to walk away the winner. That requires taking turns a little bit better.
You're still in first. So where even is this?
Oh, right now we're in Manhattan.
Oh.
Damn it, I hit the edge and it slowed me down.
Oh. You got close.
There's the finish line.
There's Calvin.
Enjoy your taste of winning. It'll be brief.
Okay, so Tio for some reason was silent during the race this time, but at least he taunted me at the end of it.
Damn.
Tio is a sore loser. Where did my parts go? What the hell? They're down here. Oh, apparently we're in Los Angeles. Sorry. Because here's the river.
Yeah. Look at all that water. All of it.
For today's video, I'm taking patron Ryan Krause's suggestion and looking at the film Redline. It's an animated Japanese movie about a future motorsport with a galactic audience, and it got its first major release in 2010. the story about the story. Redline was the original creation of a production company called Madhouse. Madhouse specializes in offbeat TV and film animation, and in the past they've created Ninja Scroll, Trigun, Black Lagoon, Death Note, Paprika, and One Punch Man. In just the last few years, they've produced an anime of Hunter x Hunter and Overlord. I don't know how many of these names mean anything to you, but if they don't, then let me just say that they've been doing some good work. The individual most responsible for Redline is Takashi Koike. Koike has been in the industry since 1987, when he got his start drawing the in-between frames that connect the keyframes drawn by the senior animators. He would go on to be a key animator for years, and then he worked his way up to creating intro and ending sequences, before finally getting an animation director's job in 1999. In the year 2000, he created his own short films, and in 2003, he directed the pilot for the show Afro Samurai. Redline would be his first feature film, and afterwards he directed 2 Lupin the Third movies. Redline took 7 years to create, and for 2000's animation, that's a really long time. Apparently, it involved 100,000 hand-drawn images, and at 24 frames per second, that would be about 70 minutes worth of pictures, assuming we're talking about individual frames. Even if we're talking about reference images, that's a lot, especially for a modern animated film. The movie debuted in late 2009 as part of the film festival circuit, and it got a wide release in Japan in October of 2010. Like most Japanese animated movies, Redline didn't get a wide release in America or internationally, but it is available for home video and online streaming. Redline got a positive critical reception, but what they most mention about the film is that it is an assault on the senses, in a good way. Now, I can't really show you what they mean using my format, but I can at least give you an idea as I summarize the story. The movie begins with Japanese text that I'm sure means something to someone. Apparently, the dubbed version on Amazon didn't bother translating this part. The movie proper begins with a bunch of dog people hanging out on a racetrack and modding engines. There are other alien species around, but mostly it's dog folks. Then the race cars scream past at what I can only imagine is slightly less than the speed of sound. We start hearing from the announcer now as he describes the different racers. Now, Death Race 2000 had racers with gimmicks, but these guys are straight up nuts. The current leader is Sanashi McLaren, a reference to the British car company I'm sure, and she's followed by veteran driver Captain Two Block, an alien team named Count Mark D and Spark, and a guy named Psycho Man, who looks as nuts as his name. Behind the leaders is Daeguon from the literal magical princess planet, Bones from the dog planet, and finally, our protagonist, Sweet JP. JP is driving a Pontiac Firebird Trans Am, what looks like a heavily modified 1978 model. And boy does it look out of place and tiny compared to all of the future alien race cars. Still, despite sticking out like a sore thumb and having a pompadour bigger than his head, JP fires up his future nitro system and rockets ahead to the lead group. Psycho Man fires a actual rocket at him, but JP jukes it into Count Mark D. As he jockeys for first place, we cut to a future gangster talking about a deal he made with a guy named Frisbee to have JP throw the race. JP is currently out on bail, so he needs the money. Plus, Frisbee put a bomb on his car as insurance. Of course, this is a racing movie about a racer, and so JP tries to win anyway. But right on the final stretch, Frisbee sets his bomb off and takes out one of JP's wheels, which is just enough for Sanashi to squeeze out a win. And all of that was the pre-title sequence. After the title, we see JP in a hospital with a broken leg and arm and watching the sports news. The earlier race was the Yellow Line, a qualifier for the Red Line, the biggest race in the galaxy. And while Sanashi gets to move up, JP is stuck in a hospital bed. On the bright side, his mechanic Frisbee shows up and gives JP his cut of the bribe money. He throws it back in Frisbee's face, but before they can argue, a bunch of reporters storm the room. Apparently, a couple Red Line racers dropped out, and since JP placed second on the Yellow Line, he's now qualified to enter. And just to make things interesting, the Redline race will take place on Robo-World, whose government quickly promises to shoot any Redline racer who tries to approach their planet. That's why the other racers dropped out. But JP? He's gonna go for it. JP and the other Redline racers, plus their support crews, land on Europass, a moon of Robo-World that also happens to be a refugee slum and a demilitarized zone. That last fact is why Robo-World can't just nuke the Redliners into glass. When he reaches Europass, JP dicks around on a hoverbike, and then meets with his parts guy, Old Man Mole. Mole thinks JP should finally put some weapons on his car, but JP doesn't like that idea even though it is a legitimate strategy. Instead, he wants 3 nitro capsules, which is one more than the 2 caps that nearly shook his Trans Am to pieces last time. JP will need a completely new engine to take that kind of power, and he trusts Frisbee to design that new engine despite how he fixed that last race. JP heads over to a high-class restaurant and introduces himself to Sanashi over dinner. The two talk about cars, then they talk about Sanashi's Steamlight, a future gem that can add a ton of power to an engine, and then they start flirting. But then some redhead guy butts in and ruins the mood. The guy's name is Shinkai, and he's a racer and mechanic whose partner is Trava. In this image, Trava is the guy with the big ears getting his ass kicked. That's when we meet the massive machine head Tetsuji, fastest man in the galaxy, whose theme song starts playing in the background. The army guy beating up Trava picks a fight with Tetsujin, but before Machine Head can lay down the pain, the Robo-World army busts in to pick up their errant officer. The racers and the army guy, Colonel Volton, threaten each other, but this is a demilitarized zone, so they leave peacefully right after they pistol whip JP for mouthing off. JP takes Sanashi home after that, and he asks her why she's so dedicated to racing. She tells him to go first, but he doesn't say, so she doesn't either, and heads inside. We then get a flashback to when both of them were a lot younger, and JP was watching Sanashi race. He saw her crash, but then get her vehicle out and keep going, and her determination is what inspired him, which is why he didn't want to tell her. We never do find out what her motivation is, though. Old Man Mole and Frisbee get a new unstable engine for the Trans Am, but the gangsters want JP to fix the race the same as the Yellow Line. JP would rather win the race to get the money for the engine, but then the gangsters would shoot them both for backing out. The Red Line is fast approaching, and we see all 8 racing teams that will be in the competition. Aside from the ones at the bar, there's Lynchman and Johnny Boya, the Super Bounty Hunters, the Super Boeens from the Magic Princess planet, Gory Rider, the Dirty Cop, and Miki and Todoroki, the Blue Line champs. Meanwhile, Red Line organizers pay some workers to disable Robo-World's main power grid, and get the bounty hunters to break their orbital death cannon. This is to make sure the racers will at least have a chance to not die during the race. The day of the race begins, and the magical princess herself marks the finish line on Robo-World's main government building. The racers drop on the starting line several hundred kilometers away, and take one of 3 paths to the finish line, with Colonel Volton's troops on all of their tails. There's more than half an hour of the movie left as the big race begins. As each of the racers battle through Robo-World's forces, we see what the race vehicles are capable of. The bounty hunters have crazy tools, Sanashi's hover car works on water, the magical girls have a transforming mecha car, and JP uses his first nitro pill to jump across a dam reservoir like a skipping stone. When the race enters a minefield, Gory Rider starts burrowing through the ground to avoid them, while Trava and Shinkai's car is faster than the detonators. As for Miki and Todoroki, their spider tank is piggybacking on Gory Rider. Colonel Volton gets serious at this point and sends a carrier group after the racers. All of the racers get hit, and Sanashi's car gets shot up. Meanwhile, Gory Rider is still burrowing when he breaks into a secret underground containment center and accidentally wakes up a giant bioweapon called Funky Boy. It starts destroying everything around it indiscriminately, so the Robo-World president shoots it with the recently repaired orbital laser cannon. This also does a number on the racers. After the blast, Sonashi's hovercar turns out to be a total loss, so JP offers to take her in the Trans Am as soon as he puts it back on its wheels. Before he can, though, Sonashi asks JP about his race fixing, since that's why he was in jail in the first place, and she heard about it on the TV. JP tells her how Frisbee went to the Mafia to get money for a new engine once, and after he lost the race, the two have been fixing races to work off Frisbee's debt. Or at least that's what JP thinks. Incidentally, JP is unaware that Frisbee has placed yet another bomb on his car, but Old Man Mole sees it on the broadcast and races out to help. Funky Boy regenerates from the explosion and starts killing what's left of its surroundings, so Colonel Volton merges with some other bioweapon to fight it. However, the racers have survived, and so the Redline is still on, with JP popping the second nitro pill to start moving to the front. The Mafia guy wants Frisbee to blow the bomb now that JP's doing well, but when he hesitates, he has his goons start roughing Frisbee up. That's when we find out Old Man Mole's plan was to bust into this place and shoot all of the Mafia guys. JP and Sonashi catch up to Tetsujin, so Tetsujin uses his steam light to blast into the lead. Sonashi drops hers into JP's tank, and all the other racers punch it as they enter the final stretch. The two protagonists and Machine Head go neck and neck, and Old Man Mole ends up using the bomb to give JP one last push to the finish line. What's left of the Trans Am disintegrates around them, but JP and Sonashi end up winning thanks to JP's huge-ass pompadour. The two kiss as they float in midair, and then the credits roll. The cars. Every Crew 2 video is full of professional motorsports, and today's movie is full of professional motorsports. Crazy future motorsports, but still. So I figure this time, I'll focus a little more on history than science and describe the origins of professional motor racing. I suppose the first question to ask is how and why people get paid to play sports in the first place. But then that's this whole thing I could spend a whole video on, so I'll stay focused on motorsports today. Suffice it to say that people are always willing to bet on winners in a contest, and people are always willing to pay to watch those contests, if the players are good enough. The idea of racing automobiles is pretty much as old as the second automobile. After all, people had been racing horses for centuries before then, so the idea of racing a horseless carriage was not a revolutionary idea. The first official motor race was probably a French contest, put together by the newspaper Le Petit Journal in 1894. For reference, the first production car was officially made by Carl Benz in 1885, just 9 years earlier. The race took place between Paris and Rome, a city in Normandy, 78 miles north along the River Seine. 78 miles was a lot for the vehicles they had back then, so the race was less about driving skill and endurance and more about demonstrating all the strange and wonderful new technology that had appeared in the past decade. The first automobile that got across the finish line was a steam-powered car, but it was disqualified for needing a stoker instead of using an internal combustion engine. The first gas-powered car was a Peugeot, a company that's still with us today, and it ran on an impressive 3-horsepower engine that averaged around 12 miles an hour. For reference, a regular person on a decent 10-speed bike could keep up that same pace over that same distance. The race's grand prize of 5,000 francs was shared between Peugeot and another French manufacturer called Banard, so the idea of manufacturer-sponsored racing teams goes back all the way to the beginning. The first big motor racing award was called the Gordon Bennett Cup, named after the man who created it and offered it as a prize for the fastest national automobile club. Bennett put the French Auto Club in charge of handing out the cup, and the rules were that each nation could sponsor 3 cars, each race had to be an endurance match of 340 to 400 miles, the race's winner gets to host the next race, and the annual race could only take place in the summer. The first Gordon Bennett race took place in the year 1900 and started in Paris again, but this time the goal was Lyon in southeast France, 353 miles away. The winner was once again a Frenchman, but then only 5 people entered that first year, and 3 of them were French. But the race built up steam as the years passed, and by 1905 the race had 18 contestants from 7 different countries. After '05 though, the French Auto Club had a format change. See, racing cars on the open road wasn't illegal at first, but as cars got bigger, heavier, and faster, and as pedestrians and drivers started dying in car accidents, countries started passing laws. In 1903, a French-Spanish race caused a number of fatalities, including the famous French racer Marcel Renault, and after that, France made open road racing illegal. Because of that, the 1905 Gordon Bennett race took place on a closed mountain road, and the racers ran 4 laps. That's why the French Auto Club left the open road, but they also wanted to add more participants to the mix. So, in 1906, they replaced the Gordon Bennett Cup with the Grand Prix, the Grand Prize, and they held the first race on a few closed public roads in Le Mans, the city a few miles southwest of Paris. Officially, the first French Grand Prix was still a contest between nations, but French manufacturers took advantage of the open enrollment to each enter their own teams. And this was basically by design. France had more automakers than any other nation at this point, and they all wanted to show off. Unsurprisingly, a French manufacturer won the race, but the driver was Hungarian. The Grand Prix wasn't an instant hit, but it would inspire the German Auto Club to create their own version in 1907, the Kaiser Prize. This went on for a few more years, but then World War I happened. After the war and the Reconstruction, the International Association of Recognized Automobile Clubs would bring back the idea of national racers and manufacturer teams, and since it was based in France, they used the French name, Grand Prix. Following World War II, they renamed themselves the Fédération Internationale de l'Automobile, and the FIA is the regulating body for the Formula One Grand Prix to this day. Motor racing today has several leagues and categories based on the type of track and the type of vehicles used. The Grand Prix races open-wheel cars, also called formula cars and single-seater cars. Open-wheel cars are illegal to drive on the road for a variety of valid reasons, and every inch is designed for high-speed racing. The frame is as light and aerodynamic as possible. The fat wheels give drivers as much grip as possible. The gear shifters are 2 buttons on the steering wheel controls so you don't have to move your hands, and the brakes can stop you in a real hurry. Aside from Formula 1, you'll also see open-wheel cars in Formulas 2 through 4, Formula E, which only allows electric vehicles, and the Indianapolis 500, an oval race that's been held every year since 1911. Next is something called stock car racing. Stock cars have to start out with normal production cars, the stock, but then you can do things like add a rear wing, pull out all of the passenger seats and air conditioning to lighten the load, add a roll cage to protect the driver, and turn the engine into a monster of horsepower. In the United States, stock car racing is governed by NASCAR, the National Association for Stock Car Auto Racing. Stock car racing is almost all done on ovals, which is very interesting to watch, but from what I hear, attending a race in person can be an incredible experience. Now, stock car racing is not to be confused with touring car racing. Like stock cars, touring cars start with a production body and then mod them all to hell, but there is one big difference. With stock cars, the stock car body is always the same. But touring cars are allowed to start with any production model. This makes touring car circuits more attractive to manufacturers, since they can use their own vehicle designs. Also, if you ever come across a car called a GT or a Grand Tourer, that name refers to the touring car circuits. Something else you get from touring car races are tracks, with more than just 2 left turns. The United States does have its own version of the touring car circuit, but it's not as famous as NASCAR. You also have race categories based on surface type. Rally races are point-to-point races along closed gravel, dirt, and paved roads, and each racer drives against the clock because these races are dangerous enough without the cars smashing into each other. Rallycross takes place on a closed circuit with mixed pavement and gravel surfaces, and it has the interesting distinction of having been invented for television. As always, I could keep going, but this should be enough for now. So thanks for joining me again for today's movie and car review, and I hope I'll see you next time for an anti-establishment movie starring Barry Newman and a Dodge Challenger.